220 cents. Cent. Then how much are we getting? We're getting 110 cents. So this is good. Whenever the examiner asks you about the return, which is going to be received by shareholders, meaning your earnings per share have to be always lower than your DPS whenever you're being asked by the investment or rather the return to shareholders. But for the company, it's bad because we are giving too much than what we are receiving. So in terms of the company, it is not good to give too much while we are receiving less. Because earnings, how much that the company earns to every share that they are issuing to our shareholders. Earnings per share. How much are we earning with one share that we are issuing to our shareholders? So always this one have to be bigger than this one whenever it is being asked in terms of the company. In terms of the company. So it is this. It must be like this. So how much are we getting? We are getting 330 cents. How much are we giving? We are giving 150 cents. Meaning this is this is good whenever the examiner asks you about the return, which goes to the company. Understand? So your EPS have to always be higher than your what? Than your dividends per share. Whenever the examiner asks you about the return, which is going to be received by the company. Earnings per share, we are earning how much while we are giving how much. So we cannot give more while getting less. So we have to give less and then get more. Then dividends payout policy. I said it is the company is giving to show the percentage which is the company giving to shareholders to attract potential shareholders. This is the percentage which we're giving to our shareholders to attract potential shareholders. Remember, always there's a gap principle which is applicable here, which is what going concern. Going concern is the company going to operate into the nearest future. It is an assumption that the company is going to operate into the nearest future. That's what going concern gap principle. All right. So the formula for dividend payout policy says DPS divided by earnings per share times 100/1. The answer has to be in percentage form. Guess what? Dividends per share. The formula to calculate dividends payout rate says dividends per share divided by earnings per share times 100/1. The answer has to be in percentage form. So how much into the net profit that we have, which is 100%, how much are we attracting or rather are we giving shareholders to attract potential shareholders? Meaning this percentage, it must not exceed 50%. It must be 50% or less. Because what it means we are giving our shareholders 50% while we have also retained 50% for future growth or for future expansion or for future development, which is the gap principle is being applicable whenever we are giving our shareholders 50% and retaining how much? 50%. But once once we are giving our shareholders more than 50%, let's say, for example, we are giving our shareholders maybe 80, let's say it's 85%. 85%. This is not good because what it means we are giving too much to our shareholders. So in other words, we are satisfying or we are keeping our shareholders too happy at the expense of the company's growth or at the expense of the development of the company. No future expansion. There is nothing that we have retained for future development in this company. Meaning in the long run, this company could be closed. Due to what? We are retaining 15%. There's only 15% which is being retained, while 85% is also given to our shareholders to make them happy. So this is not good. So it must always be less than 50% so that we could see that the gap principle, which is going concern, is being applicable. Understand? Then done with that, we have the next category. Our next category is risk. Risk or what? Or gearing. Risk or gearing. Once you see risk, you think of two financial indicators, which is debt equity ratio, and gearing. You think of what? ROTS. In risk and gearing, once you see the word loan, sometimes they will say that loan, you think of these two things. So you comment about the risk and gearing of the company. So the risk goes with debt equity ratio. The formula for debt equity ratio says non-current liabilities to shareholders equity. While the ROT, what does the ROT means? Return on total capital employed. Return on total capital employed, meaning it is the return that the company is giving to an individual shareholder, and it must always be compared to interest on loan. It must be compared on interest on loan. So the formula says net profit before or after tax plus interest on loan divided by average shareholders equity plus average loan. Net profit before tax or after tax plus interest on loan divided by average shareholders equity plus average liabilities, non-current liabilities. So debt equity ratio, when you comment about the debt equity ratio, we are checking the risk, whether the company is on a high risk or on a low risk. Here we are checking the gearing, which is we have the positive gearing and the negative gearing. So we have to know then how to see that the company is on a high risk or low risk. So high risk, you see this always when it's 0,1 is to 1, 2, 0,4 is to 1. So always when you got 0,1, 0,2, 0,3, 0,4, that is the max, 0,4, maximum 0,4 is to 1. Meaning non-current liabilities, how much are we owing? We are owing 0,1 rand. How much we have to pay? Oh, sorry, how much do we have showed as equity? We have 1 rand. So it's good. And then 0,4, how much we are going to pay? 0,4, which is 4 cents. How much we are having as shareholders? We have 1 rand. We are going to pay. We are going to be able to pay, which is, this is a what? This is always a what? A low risk or the low financial risk. It must not exceed 0,4, which is the maximum for the low risk. It's 0,4. Low risk is 0,4. But once it's 0,5 and above, 0,5 and above, 0,5 and above is always a what? A high financial risk. A high financial risk. A high financial risk. Once you have 0,5, it is a high financial risk. It is bad. It is bad. The company depends on loan. The company is depending on borrowed capital. The company is not have funds, so it doesn't have funds. Rather, it has funds which have been borrowed or lended. So it's not good when it's 0,5 and above, that is a high financial risk. But if you have 0,4 and less, that is a low financial risk. Then we have debt equity, ROTs. ROTs always, our ROTs must, when it's a positive gearing, our ROTs have to be maybe 18%, and then our interest on loan have to be at least 8%. That's one. So our ROTs to be on a positive gearing must exceed the interest on loan, that is a positive gearing. Always when our ROT is higher or greater than interest on loan, that is a what? Positive gearing. But when our interest on loan is 20% and our ROT is 15%, that is a negative gearing. That is a negative gearing. So our ROT must not be exceeded or must not be less than what? Than our interest on loan. So if ever our interest on loan is greater than our ROTs, that means it is what? It is a negative gearing. So this is always for 6 marks. Then the other categories, it's this one. Once you see the word shares,